So let's talk about Unity Software, ticker symbol U. I'll try to keep the jokes to a minimum. Unity IPO'd on September 18, 2020 at around a $20 billion market cap, closing its first trading day at around $73 per share. During its initial rally over the holidays, ARK Invest slowly averaged up until Unity represented about 1% of all of their actively managed dollars. As its price crashed after the first week in February, they began aggressively loading up on this stock. Today, Cathie is holding over $1.25 billion of Unity software across ARKK, ARKW, ARKQ, and ARKX, making it ARK Invest's 8th biggest position overall out of about 175 stocks. Over the last month alone, Cathie has increased her position in Unity software by well over 10%, while her total assets under management shrank by more than 10% over that same time period. To me, that speaks very highly of Cathie Wood's conviction in ticker symbol U. This is going to be a fun episode. The thing that I think all of Cathie Wood's biggest positions have in common is that most investors are misunderstanding at least part of the bigger picture. So in this episode, I'd like to talk about what Unity software does today, how it fits into this bigger picture, and some of the things that make it a unique competitor and investment. Full disclosure, I don't own any Unity stock except through my sizable position in ARKW, but I may pick up shares in the very near future as a result of this research. So let's dive right into it. Today, Unity software allows developers to create 2D and 3D interactive experiences for every type of platform, including PCs, Macs, gaming consoles, and mobile devices. Their primary audience right now is game developers, but I'll show you in a bit that they're expanding their development ecosystem to support much more than just video games. The thing Unity's platform focuses on is lowering the barrier of entry to develop these visual experiences, kind of like how Shopify, ARK Invest's 4th biggest position, lowers the barrier of entry to create online businesses. Both Unity and Shopify remove most of the need to learn how to code in order to participate in their respective markets. In Unity's case, that means artists, storytellers, and other types of content creators can start bringing their vision to life much faster instead of having to learn a skill that's very different from their existing skill set. Also, Unity's business model and their software is very scalable. Unity supports everyone from huge studios that make multiplayer games that require powerful computers all the way down to individual indie creators who just want to make a simple mobile game. The way I see it, everything Unity software does falls into one of 3 categories. The first is called Create Solutions. These are the tools that developers, artists, designers, engineers, and architects use to create actual 2D or 3D content. Unity's core products are available for free for smaller developers, which include the development platform itself and the visual scripting tools that let creators start building their content without needing to code. The second category of Unity's features is called Operate Solutions. These are all the things related to operating a game that aren't necessarily part of the core gameplay itself. This includes things like hosting services for multiplayer games and supporting voice chat between multiple players. This also includes the tools that help creators monetize their content through advertisements or in-app purchases. There are 2 special things about Unity's Operate Solutions. First, even if a creator isn't using Unity's Create Solutions to build their actual game, they can still use Unity's Operate Solutions to manage all of these other features around it. In fact, Unity has a separate service called Unity Ads, which is its own mobile advertising platform and auction system that anyone can plug into directly, and it competes with Google's ad services in that space. Second, Unity follows a revenue sharing model, where they take something like a 5% cut of the client's revenue when it reaches a certain threshold. That way, Unity directly scales with the revenue growth of their successful clients, which keeps their incentives aligned with their customers. I really like that. Speaking of aligning with their customer base, Unity's platform follows a develop once and deploy everywhere model, where creators can deploy their work on a PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, Mac OS and iOS, and Android and Windows. This is a big selling point. That means different operating system and device makers need to enter into long-term partnerships with Unity software to ensure that creators don't have to learn to write any extra code just to get their projects onto one specific platform. As a result, Unity's platform has become an industry standard content creation tool. By their own estimates, over half of the top 1,000 mobile games in Apple's App Store and on Google Play have been created using Unity's solutions. Additionally, its platform has been used to develop nearly 60% of all of the augmented and virtual reality content, including viral mobile experiences like Pokemon Go. In fact, something like 90% of the content on emerging AR platforms is made using the Unity engine. I'll get back to that 90% number later in the episode. Unity's Create solutions, Operate solutions, and platform partnerships work together to form an end-to-end solution that isn't easy to replicate by other visualization engines, making it a pretty big moat in my opinion. There's one more thing I want to say about gaming before I talk about the other industries that Unity operates in. It turns out that over the last decade, the gaming industry in general has been growing by about 10% per year, and mobile gaming specifically has been growing by almost 25% per year. So, gaming is a huge, rapidly growing market that's soon going to surpass $200 billion of revenue per year. The reason I'm making a separate call out for mobile gaming is because when Unity started, it differentiated itself from its biggest competitor, Unreal Engine, by focusing on supporting Mac games and mobile games. As a result, Unreal Engine powers some of the biggest PC and console games like Fortnite and Rocket League, while Unity powers some of the most popular mobile games like Hearthstone and Pokemon Go. This shift to mobile gaming is actually part of a larger shift to mobile everything. In fact, the amount of time people are spending on smartphones has increased by almost 30% in the last 3 years, and time spent on tablets has increased by over 40% in that same time frame. Likewise, Unity's total addressable market extends to industries far beyond gaming. They are consistently investing to expand their platforms to cater to industries like architecture and engineering, 3D design, automotive, 3D film, and animation creation. Today, less than 10% of their biggest customers are from these other industries outside of gaming, but I think this is a large opportunity for Unity in the long term. Think about all of the applications for this kind of software outside of gaming. Architects and automotive engineers can build digital twins of their buildings and cars to start running tests on these digital models. Swapping out parts, trying different materials, seeing how different parts and subassemblies fit and work together, or even simulating the final customer experience can all be done in a shared digital workspace instead of through physical models and prototypes, which are expensive to build and much harder to update. Think about real estate applications where you want to place furniture in a home, to stage a virtual walkthrough, and can rearrange the house in an infinite number of ways with the push of a button, or even randomize the layout of the house altogether. Remember, for all of these industries, Unity software is providing a solution that lets people do most of these things with minimal code, so these professionals don't have to learn a new, separate skill set to start implementing these solutions. This idea of low or no code creation of virtual environments and digital twins brings us right into the vision of Unity software's future. The first part is fairly straightforward. They're going to keep reinvesting into their Create solutions, Operate solutions, and strategic partnerships to scale with the mobile gaming market and continue to grow their customer base in other industries beyond gaming. I'll talk more about that in a separate episode, only because Unity Software reports their earnings in less than a week, so we can see how well they're actually doing with this. Comment below or tweet me at tickersymbolu with anything you'd like me to cover in this follow-up episode on Unity's financials. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. The second part of Unity's future is the more exciting part, at least to me. Unity software is in the pole position to be the development platform for virtual worlds. I really believe that this isn't just a pipe dream. Let me set the stage with this short clip from 60 Minutes and Paramount.
The idea of the metaverse goes beyond gaming. These types of platforms allow users to do things they do in the real world. They attend concerts, hang out with friends, and increasingly, they spend money. During the pandemic, rapper Travis Scott played a concert in Fortnite. 27 million people participated.
Can you explain what the metaverse is?
I think about it in the convergence of the physical and the digital. Back in the day, like my brother and his friends would save money to buy Air Jordans, right? Nowadays, my kids, who are all under 10, actually, whenever they have a special occasion, they actually ask me to buy them Robux, which is a digital currency inside Roblox, right? And they use it to buy avatar skins, and the way they look in game to them is almost as important as the way they look in real life. Like they'll meet there. It's kind of like the new social network.
Okay, I get it. You're probably thinking this whole metaverse idea is pretty wonky and that a few game companies are just pushing it as a way to get more people to buy into virtual and augmented reality products, which is still decades away from being a reality. A real reality, not a virtual reality. Wait. Since that 60 Minutes clip claimed that the metaverse will be the next iteration of social networks, why don't we turn to the king of current social networks and see whether or not he has anything good or bad to say about this technology. Here's a quick clip of Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO and co-founder of Facebook, in an interview with Marques Brownlee last year.
I think you're still gonna have to go into some kind of different mode to want to put on sunglasses or goggles and have that fully immersive virtual experience for virtual reality. But I think augmented reality, once that hits and you have a normal pair of glasses that, good looking kind of normal glasses, not anything that's super thick or anything like that, and that can last all day long but can project holograms into the world, we won't even necessarily need other kinds of screens anymore, right? Things like TVs, tablets, all these things could just be digital holograms and could be apps that some kid halfway across the world in some other place makes, and you'll be able to get completely kind of new designs for things like TVs in kind of different kinds of shapes that are not like the regular thing that Samsung can make in their factory. And I think that there's just going to be a crazy amount of creativity that gets unlocked and a lot of innovation when a lot of stuff that physically today has to be produced in a factory, which obviously most people don't have access to doing that, can just get turned into an app that can be a hologram that you can give to someone. I think that's going to be wild. So I'm really excited about it, and that's why we're just so focused on this, and we have thousands of people working on this at Facebook, because I just do think that this is going to be the next major computing platform, even if it takes several years to get there.
So Facebook is dedicating thousands of people to virtual and augmented reality because they see it as the next frontier for computing and the internet. Facebook also owns Oculus, a major player in VR headsets, games, and equipment. Here's an interesting fact. Facebook just reported their earnings, and during the call, the word metaverse was mentioned 20 times. For reference, the word advertising was mentioned just 12 times. I've linked their full transcript of their call in the description below, so you can check it out for yourself. I'm extremely bullish on this idea of the metaverse, and actually, so is ARK Invest. Since I'm saving the financials for Unity Software's earnings call in less than a week, let me wrap up this episode by showing you ARK Invest's stance on this market as a whole. If we go back to ARK Invest's Big Ideas report, the third big idea was virtual worlds. Virtual worlds today are in their infancy, but according to ARK's research, revenues could grow at a 17% compound annual growth rate over the next 5 years. The culmination of these virtual worlds will ultimately be this metaverse. Over the last 10 years, gaming revenue has shifted towards in-game purchases. By 2025, 95% of global gaming revenue could come from in-game purchases. Right now, this is happening primarily through microtransactions in mobile games, but the obvious implication is that this will also be true for virtual goods, services, and assets inside the metaverse. ARK Invest also believes that the average time a person spends playing video games will increase by over 30% in the next 5 years, further compounding in-game revenue by that amount. More time playing means more time spending. That's what's responsible for the exponential growth of virtual gaming revenue in their bull case. Market leaders like Snapchat, Apple, and of course Facebook are investing heavily in augmented reality, encouraging widespread use of AR tools on existing mobile devices, as well as consumer-grade AR glasses, like Snapchat's Spectacles, which are currently a hardware platform built for creators that are looking to push the limits of immersive augmented reality experiences. As a result of products like this, the total AR market could scale from under $1 billion today to $130 billion by 2030, a compound annual growth rate of over 60% for the next decade. Even if you think ARK Invest's projection is off by 5 years, that would still be an almost 40% compound annual growth rate for the next 15 years. The next step after AR is VR. Based on the declining costs of VR headsets and immersive software like Facebook's Oculus products, ARK Invest predicts that the mass market products offering complete visual immersion could hit smartphone-like adoption in 2030. Again, even if you think they're off by 5 years, we're talking about getting in front of an industry the size of smartphones today. In my opinion, actually eventually bigger, since AR and VR will eventually be able to simulate phones and tablets, removing the need to own the real ones, just like Nintendo emulators on computers remove the need to own a real Nintendo today. Remember when I said that 90% of the content on emerging AR platforms is made using the Unity engine? This rapidly growing market is currently Unity Software's to lose. As I mentioned earlier, the other major non-proprietary game engine is called the Unreal Engine. Unreal is owned by Epic Games, which isn't currently publicly traded, but guess who owns 40% of it? Tencent, ticker symbol TCEHY, which ARK Invest is aggressively divesting from ever since the start of these Chinese regulatory crackdowns. Tencent was ARK Invest's 26th biggest position at the start of June, with almost $500 million in it. Today, ARK Invest has just 1/10 of that in Tencent, making it their 128th biggest position overall. Yikes. By the way, I'm not saying that Tencent or Epic Games are bad companies, or that Unreal Engine is somehow an inferior product, but I do think that Unity is currently positioned to be the better and safer long-term investment for developing experiences on mobile, augmented reality, and virtual reality platforms. Comment below with your thoughts on Unity Software's business today, and what you think about augmented reality, virtual reality, and the Metaverse. Do you think this is the next step in computing and social networking, or does your vision of the future go in a different direction? I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Either way, I hope this episode helped you understand more about what Unity Software business does today.